the slides of my presentation on your screens?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, everybody, from my side, hello. You are all of my colleagues are there. A little bit later, you become also resource persons to many such programs. So, this is my first interaction with the JNDU, and I'm very thankful, Dr. Amandeep, who has given an opportunity to interact my colleagues who are just completing the what's for the steps of their promotions, because we have had already what's what passed about these stages, that refresher courses are there, reorientation programs are there. So best of luck from my side, that as quickly as possible you complete your formalities for next promotions. So I come to know from Dr. Mandeep that in this what's what orientation program, or sorry, refresher programs, persons, majority of the persons are from the physical education, and in addition to this, arts and social sciences persons are also there. So everybody listen to me. Hello.
Yes,
To
sir.
all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
Yes.
Ah, so
Yes, sir.
today's lecture is not particularly for those persons who are from the physical education or sports science. It is I have designed this lecture for all of the persons, whether it is a what's what from the arts or social sciences, even the persons from the common man is there. So the title is there, that is dose response profile to improve cardiovascular fitness. As you know, the dose generally word is used by the medical persons. That is the clinical side persons. They have used the dose. Dose is actually the amount. Some amount is there. What's the frequency is there. Then the word is response. That commonly these is the English words are there. Response means what the reaction is there. What's the reaction from the body side of the person, and profiling, that is to hello, hello,
Subject educational technology and methods of teaching in physical education. ये जो subject है
hello,
इस पे मैंने कई सारे वीडियोस बना रखे हैं आपको.
hello, hello. I, I am audible because a lot of other voices are there, so I don't know whether the what's what the other lines are mixed with my lecture or other persons are not. So the cardiovascular generally word use, we use the word heart. For layman's language, if the heart is there. So I have designed this lecture for you people because from the last 2 3 years, that after post corona, you see young persons, particularly the male, what's for the young men, they are what sort of the bad news are there, particularly when they are going to the gym and there is a certain cardiac arrests are there, heart attacks are there. Even during what's what during exercises, young persons are lost their precious life when doing physical activity, that is physical exercise in the gyms. So I have designed this lecture from that angle also. So I start these what's what the some slides are there, but you are open to me after the lecture or during the lecture. If anybody has any query, they ask me that I discuss the things on the same side. That is, don't wait for what's what the my lecture is over, then you start pouring the question. If anybody has any question, you ask me, and what's interrupt me that this term or what's what the content you have some question, you interrupt me at any time. I always welcome my audience and the clients and what's what my colleagues, that they interrupt me, I like it. So I just start the words to clarify the things. What's the title of my lecture is there. So as I just told you, for a common man, cardiac means the heart is there. For the person who has some background of science, they know that vascular system means the blood vessel is there, the pipes. For common man's language, that pipes which carry the blood, and those are connected with the heart, that become a system is there, that is called cardiovascular system. So for the persons who are from the background of the sports or physical education or exercise science or general science, so in the gyms we have also go when see the two sections are there. One is the weight training program, is the aerobic center. So here cardiovascular fitness referred to as what's the aerobic fitness, that is expressed in generally in our field. We use the word VO2 max. VO2 max means the maximum oxygen consumption through breathing, through nostril. That is, we take the breathe. So in the breathing, we will take the air. In the air, many other gases are there, but the things which we need more, that is the oxygen. In addition to oxygen, air has many other gases are there. So here the word cardiovascular fitness has this term is there VO2 max. So maximum volume of oxygen you can take in through your lungs, which is pumped around your body using your heart and the blood vessels. Blood vessels is nothing but the pipe system is there. Like in our homes, we will get the water supply from the what's for the water tank. Municipal corporations have installed big tanks are there. We get the water supply. So for that blood vessel here represents for the which carry the bloods from the heart. So it makes use of your muscles. The muscles are working. They need the raw material. Raw material means the nutrients are also needed. When they have metabolized, the biochemical reactions are occurring. They produce energy, force. So some waste products are also secreted by that breakdown of the nutrients. So this system is there which make use of what's what the providing the raw material as well as to remove the waste products. So the word is there in term which we have used dose. What dose means? What is the aspect of this dose? Not from the clinical side, but from the exercise side, from the sports or from the physical activity side. Dose. So in training studies now we will use the word dose. So dose can be seen as the product of exercise variables, training variables, and application of training principles. Here the training means the physical training is there. Physical training nothing but for the physical words for the movements in the body. The sports persons have used common man have also used the body. The common man is used for daily activity for work, and the sports person are used for particular sports which require a fixed pattern of words for the motor and physical movements pattern is there. So all these three things make the dose, that is exercise variables, training variables, and application of training principles. So for example, in exercise variable, we will see the exercise intensity. For common man's language, what is exercise intensity? How hard is the exercise? Exercise means physical exercise. Then the exercise duration, that is how long you can do those physical activities. Then the type of exercise mean whether it is a weight training exercise, without weight training exercise, field based exercises or lab based exercise. So all these makes the exercise variables here, that the type of exercises. Then there is the training variables, that is the frequency of trainings, person, what sessions, that is in a week, in a month, in a year. What's for the training cycles? So training depends upon person to person and sports person to sports person here. So frequency means the number of days when you are doing exercise. Then the principles of trainings are there. That is training principles depending upon what's the purpose of training, what want you to achieve it. From the common man to the sports person. For the common man, fitness is the aim is there. So different principles are there. For common man to gain the weight, to lose the weight. Okay, for sports person, sprinter have different requirements. Long distance runners have different requirements. Team games like hockey, football, they have different requirements. Gymnasts have. So principles, training principles vary from person to person or from sports to sports. So, but all these three things, exercise variables, training variables, application of training principles, they make the term dose. So what is physical activity? What is physical exercises? So is there any differences? Yes, there is a little bit differences there when we will see from the aspect of the exercise physiology. Exercise physiology is nothing but this is the physiology. What is physiology? Physiology is the come to know how the body organs or systems are working, functions. That is called physiology. Exercise means when we are doing physical activity, how the different systems are working. When we study it, that is called exercise physiology. From that angle, we will use this word. Physical activity means any activity which is muscle induced. That is, as we know, when we are walking and doing any activity, muscles and bones and joints are involved. Without that, there is no movement is there. So muscle induced bodily movements that increase energy expenditure. So energy expenditure means when we do any physical activity, energy is needed, energy expended. So any movement, any activity, physical activity, which uses 1 or 1.5 MEAT. MEAT is what is there? MET. We will use the word MET. MET is metabolic equivalent of task. One MET is 1 kilocalorie. So this is the unit of the energy which we have used commonly. Even the calorie you have used the word in nutrition also. In physical activity we will use the word also. So in these days you see any eatable, whether biscuits are there, cookies are there, where namkeen mixtures are there. So there is nutrition values are given, and what's for the calories which will provide the body energy, they will give it. So 1 kilocalorie mean 1000 here. So one met. So what met show was what for the calorie expenditure. It is expressed in the oxygen consumption as well as the energy. So here we will see any physical activity which induced what's what which required at least 1.5 met. We will say this is the physical activity that it is using the energy. Source of energy in the body in the biochemical reaction depends upon what type of movements you are doing. So hence the term physical activity is a hypernia that covers a wide range of physical activities that are conducted on a regular or unregular basis in a relatively unstructured or unplanned manner. So that includes specific planned structure form of physical activity that are known as physical exercises that are done by sports person for specific requirements. So that is the physical activity. What are the physical exercises? Then physical exercises further distinguished based upon the temporal. Temporal means with respect to time. That is what we have used here, temporal. So temporal characteristic means acute physical exercises, that is single bout exercises. Chronic physical exercises mean repeated bouts of acute exercises. So keeping in words for the time scale, we will use these terms, that is acute physical exercise, chronic physical exercise. So a single bout of physical exercise is commonly referred to as acute. That is single bout. What mean once we have done it, and we use the word another word we have used the acute physical exercises. Acute or single bout, acute physical exercise is the same thing. Furthermore, the chronic physical exercises can be denoted as physical training. So it is physical training. So when they are conducted regularly in a planned, structured, and purpose is there, purpose manner is there, with some objective to increase, to maintain individual capabilities in one or multiple fitness dimensions, that is called physical training. That is called physical training. So every human, as we know, is unique. So there is a considerable amount of within individual. So when we will say within individual, we use the term intra-individual. Between individual, we use the word inter-individual. Heterogeneity means the genes, the makeup of the body. That genes are carried by our body from our forefathers. So hetero means that it is different. It is different from person to person. It is different. So in acute physiological responses to the same acute physical exercise and or long-term adaptation to the same physical training. So in order for that, we will use the word responder and non-responder. What is responder? What is non-responder? Generally, it is an English word. We will say respond mean when we give the stimulus, it give us response. Response may be positive or negative. So responder here referred to as the individuals with high sensitivity. Non-responder also referred to as the individual with low sensitivity. So limited responder means individuals which did not respond and was introduced. So these words we have used in this. So regarding the response to acute physical exercises and physical training, we will use the word here physical exercises and or physical training. So responders are individuals who exhibit at a certain time point changes in variable of interest. Interest mean any interest, that is flexibility is there, strength is there, power is there, VO2 max is there, many variables are there that are above or below a distinguished threshold. Threshold means the minimum quantity. Non-responders are individuals who exhibit at a certain time point changes in variable of interest that are below or a distinguished threshold. How genetics and lifestyle contributes to inter-individual heterogeneity. So these words I have previously elaborate, the terms I have elaborate, because when we are moving in my further lectures, these words comes so that you can clearly understand it, what the meaning of these words and the term is there. So that's why I have a little bit to define it and describe it in my previous slides. Now, when moving the slides, these terms which we have seen earlier, they come. So I hope that you people can understand it. If still some doubts are there, you can clarify from my side. So in the inter-individual responses to physical exercises or physical training, and in turn the inter-individual heterogeneity in outcomes are caused by several moderators, including both modifiable factors, modifiable, non-modifiable factors, and modifiable factors. Non-modifiable factors means the sex and genes, genotypes, which we can say. So it is not modifiable. Once the nature and the god whatsoever we get the sex, we cannot change it. Genotypes, what the genes we have carried from our forefathers and parents, we cannot modify it. So that's why these words we have used, that is, it is non-modifiable factors. What is the modifiable factors which are influencing these? That is the nutrition, social or cognitive activities, exercise prescription. So exercise prescription have many components. I will elaborate in my coming lectures, in coming slides, sorry. So notably, these factors can also be classified as in another aspect, endogenous factors. Non-modifiable factors is one criteria, and another criteria is that where it is lying, that is endogenous. Endogenous factor mean factors attributable to the individual, such as sex or genes. They are inside. Exogenous factor mean outside. The factors attributable to the external inputs generated by the exercise. So external load, what's for the internal load? So in the context of exercise prescription is the what's for the components. I will show you how, what, and where and when exercises are done. So that represent what's for the exercise prescription. So it is also imperative to clarify the term external load and internal load. So while external load, along with the influencing factors like climate conditions, equipments, ground conditions, particularly for the sports person, is defined as the work completed by the individual independent of internal characteristics. So internal load is defined as individuals and acute biomechanical, physiological, or psychological responses to the influencing factors and the work performed by the person. That is, athletes are there. So it appears that internal load can be adjusted by modifying the external load. External load means exercise prescription. We can say climatic conditions are there, instrument, accessories, equipments. We can change ground condition. We can change. Those are affecting internal. So, however, given that exercise variables such as exercise intensity can be operationalized using parameters of either external load, example, running with a speed of what's about 10 kilometer or with a maximum heart rate of 60. So these are some parameters we will use to come to know what is external load and internal load, how they will trigger for the responses. So dose is an essential factor for triggering the neurobiological processes. So dose mean those things which we have just described here. Neurobiological mean nervous system with other biological system inside the body, like different systems are there. So which internally to what's for the neuroplastic and cognitive changes. So neuroplastic related to the nervous system. What's for the nervous system? They will stimulate hormones. What's for the hormones are changing the metabolism and other structures of the body. Cognitive related to what's for the changes inside the brain. What's for the changes are there. So although a number of markers are there, so markers of internal load could be more difficult to measure compared to the markers of the external load. So each marker of internal load is needed as a proxy for dose. So there are several markers of internal load that can be used to prescribe the exercise intensity. That is how hard the exercise is. So there are number of markers are there. So in acute endurance exercises and or endurance training, for example, oxygen uptake, heart rate or heart rate variability are what's what the markers are there. For instance, heart rate variability, that is a beat to beat variation over a fixed time period or distinguished time period under resting conditions or while exercising is an interesting marker for internal load, because the internal load quantification by heart rate variability and this is progressive and takes the individual fitness level as well as daily readiness and actual health state into account. So hence it seems more promising to use a marker. So I tell you what is marker, what the markers are there in my next slide. So use a marker or markers of internal load that are related to changes in the neurotropic molecules in order to individualize or adjust the exercise prescription. So what is biomarkers? Particularly I'm talking about here, many biomarkers are there, but what's what my topic of presentation here, that is related to cardiovascular. I just highlighted here the prominent one, which is very important for the common men as well as the persons who are doing physical activity. So cardio biomarkers we will highlight it. So what is biomarker? So biological marker or biomarker is a measurable product or a substance in a blood in the body of the human, which is used as an indicator of the biological state to objectively determine the body's physiological or pathological process. So in sports, biomarkers are the key parameters to assess the impact of exercise on different system, tissues, and organs. If we are using physical training program for different sports, what's the impact are there? So body has secreted different types of chemicals. So those chemicals become markers. Here the word biomarker mean related to living. So therefore, we can estimate parameters for assessing the degree of fitness, muscle damage, hydration, dehydration, inflammation, oxidative damage, fatigue, overtraining, etc., which facilitate the evaluation of the response of the human body at different levels of physical activity or training being carried out. Okay, hello, hello, everybody, listen. Oh, so I think I am speaking one side. Nobody is there because of internet. So I don't know if everybody is listening me or not. That's why I interrupt my lecture. I stop my lecture. So just biomarkers I here just highlighted. So biomarker can be used. What's what? The status of the internal status of the body. So biomarkers can be used to measure the impact of the training. Here we will use the word training, mean physical training, sports training on the long term or the acute effect of the exercise. So the value or the concentration of a biomarker depends upon many factors, as the training status of the subject, the degree of the fatigue, and the type and duration of exercise. Apart from age and gender and among other many other things are there. Climate can also play a very important role. Mainly the temperature is there, climatic temperature, humidity, and what's what the wind speed is there. So they are affecting what's what the body of the person of the athlete, and inside the body many changes are there. So exercise can be classified according to the duration of the as flowing, that is around 20 seconds. That is demand for energy up to 9%. We say it is a very strenuous exercises or like sprint is there. So here the activity lasts for 20 seconds or less than 20. So here the energy demand is met by anaerobic. Anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen, there is no time to take oxygen and then burn the things inside that through metabolism. So 90% energy comes through anaerobic system. So exercises which lasting more than what 20 seconds to 1 minute, that is called aerobic or anaerobic energy. Both systems can be used. And exercises that extend over 1 minute, that is aerobic energy, more than 50% comes from the aerobic system. That is in the presence of oxygen. We will get the oxygen, and oxygen is available to break down what's the nutrients available, carbohydrates, fat, proteins, and they break down it. We will get the energy in the form of ATP to do physical activity. So intensity is also influencing factor on biomarker concentration. So most of the biomarkers are measured in blood, generally urine and saliva. So in light sports, non-invasive samples, non-invasive mean without inside puncturing the skin, sample like urine and saliva have a preference in sports person. So other useful biomarkers are body composition, like specifically muscle mass, fat mass, weight, and physical fitness like cardiovascular capacity, strength, agility, flexibility, heart rate, blood pressure. So depending upon the aim, one or several biomarkers should be measured. So cardiobiomarkers are endogenous substances. Now we will come to the biomarker which is more prevalent and come to the status of the heart, particularly the heart or blood vessels or related to the heart. So cardiac biomarkers are endogenous. Endogenous inside. Endogenous substances released in the circulation when the heart is damaged or stressed. When the heart is damaged or stressed when they are doing physical activity. So a long race such as marathon or ultra marathon can lead to changes in biomarkers, electro and echocardiography. They are related to the heart. That electrocardiography, ECG, we commonly use the word ECG is there. So indicating what sort of the pathological processes potentially leading to what sort of the physiopathological changes in the heart. That the functioning of the heart is going to be disturbed due to many reasons. But when it's disturbed, some chemicals are released by the cardiac muscles and related structures. Those become cardio biomarkers. So these shifts are usually temporary. When we stop the exercise, their body are repairing it and come back to. But depending on the intensity and duration of the performance, and generally what's for the normalization after the race, for example, in an ultra marathon race, if the body system come back to normal or not, or sometimes if they don't come back, they have potential some risk factors are there. So here in this picture you will see, so So potential mechanisms involved in the release of the different cardiac biomarker. Here I will lay emphasis only on the cardiac. Different system, different organs have different markers. Here I will just highlight a few of the cardiac biomarkers after an exercise, because the heart is very important organ in the system. Other body organs are also very important, but heart. Without heart, brain is not working. If brain has some problem, heart is still working, then body is working. Okay. So when in this picture you will see when high intensity exercises are there, so heart is working very hardly. So here you will see myocyte mechanical stress is there. Myocyte mean the cardiac muscles have under the what were the stress to produce more force, more pumping is there. What's for the ischemia, that is the oxygen availability is less, ischemia. Then hemodynamic consequences there. Hemodynamic is the volatility, like blood pressure. The blood pressure is become high or beating is high. You see here, then in this inflammation comes to the acid base imbalance is there, that is oxygen less, oxidative stress comes, inflammation comes here. So myostatic membrane permeability is disturbed, that is myostatic necrosis is there. Myostatic necrosis means the cells are going to be damaged without oxygen availability. So then they will release chemicals like anti-pro-BNP, ST2. I will just in next slide tell you what is these meanings are there, how we interpret these markers. Troponin is increased, FBP is increased, then copatin is increased. So these inflammation, then damage and inflammation. So these macrophages activation, these cells are there, macrophage, they will increase these chemical GAL3, ST2, GAL3, NT. So these words I am not elaborating. In my next slide, I tell you what's the meaning there in these slides. So the word here is troponins. So this generally these tests are used by medical doctors, particularly medical cardiologists are used when they have a doubt that the person's after getting some sweating, oversweating, chest pain, and they come to emergency. They will use, some doctors and medical doctors have used these tests so that they come to know what the status of the heart is there. But not for the common man, even the persons who are doing strength exercise in the gym, during gym activity, weightlifting and other, and even during the field training. So heart is particularly under the load. Under the load means they are stressed, more force is produced. So if some damages are there, what type of damages, what type of chemicals comes out from the cells of the heart. Here you will see troponins. So here we will see troponin 1 and troponin T. Here abbreviation TNI, TNT. So when the blood have beyond normal, above normal amount of these two chemicals, they show that myocyte injury is there. Myocyte means cardiac muscle have injury. So function is there, ischemic and necrosis, myocardial infarction, diagnosis, cardiac risk stratification. So these risks are there that the person have done, or heart in those persons have under stress. That is physical stress, work stress is there. So the quantity and the normal amount is increased. Troponin 1 and troponin T. Then there is a myostatic stress. That is when heart is pumping, the membrane is there, they become stressed, like muscles are stretching. So when they are overstretched, cardiac muscles have become overstretched, then they will again release some chemicals, which is we call B type natriuretic peptides, BNP. So diagnosis, prognosis, and monitoring of the heart failure. Then NH2 terminal pro B type B natriuretic peptide, that is anti-pro BNP. This is again diagnosing and prognosing, monitoring of the heart failure. So then there is a galectin 3, GAL3. We will use this term. So this is the mediator of cardiac fibrosis and remodeling, follow up of the heart failure. That heart failure is there, then cardiac fibrous become there. That is the non-functional cardiac cells become there. So the value of this GAL3 tell us the status. Then there is a suppression of what's for the tumorogenicity 2, ST2. So this marker is a mediator of the cardiac fibrosis and remodeling and monitoring of the prognosis of heart failure. That after heart failure, what's the recovery is there. Then others like heart fatty acid binding protein, HFBP, then copeptin. So these show that the myocardial damage is there. That is surrogate marker of arginine, vasopressin, differentiation of osmotic disorders, non-specific stress-related outcome markers in acute disease. So these few markers here we will see. So if we test it, we use it, then the what's for the risk factors of the persons become less. That but formally awareness is less. We don't know it. because if any symptom comes like breathlessness is there, other will be correlate with the other things because of non awareness of these what's what the markers and the changes inside the body when we are doing exercise. Although we do physical exercise to become fit, but sometimes they lead to risk factors more. So how to individualize these exercise prescription? So based upon the large inter-individual heterogeneity, because these you see the each and every body has unique body, unique biochemical system. So that's why generalization of the things is not possible. So in physiological response to acute physical exercises, it varies from person to person. If anybody lift 10 kg, it is very easy for him, but for other person from the same age, same height, same weight, it is very difficult. So they become risky for those. So because of the genetic makeup and biochemical makeup accordingly, they are vary. So in physiological responses to acute physical exercises in long-term adaptation to physical training, so inter-individual heterogeneity should be kept in mind when you design the training program. So it is assumed that tailoring of these to the characteristics and needs of a particular person is well suited, maximize their efficiency. What's what their body, what's what their body responses are there. You design the training program accordingly so that you will get good results. So such individualization of acute physical exercises and or physical training could be achieved by adjusting the exercise prescription. And now I tell you what is the exercise prescription, because we don't change, we are not in a position to change the genetic makeup, but what we can change, which is influencing the expression of those genes, that is the outside exogenous factors. So here we will see the exercise prescription, for example exercise intensity, so which influences in turn the dose that is objectified by specific markers of internal load. So in practical term, focus on exercise intensity, because a full discussion of all exercise variables and training principle is beyond the scope of my this lecture. But here I just outlined that outline in the previous slides. You see using the markers of internal load to prescribe exercise intensity is preferable instead of using the parameters of external load such as speed in running of specific exercises. So how to individualize? So therefore traditional markers of internal load such as the fixed percentage of the maximal achievable value of oxygen uptake or heart rate are often used. Internal, that is how body are feeling hard exercise. We generally see if heart rate is more, we say it is a strong exercise. If more breathing rate is there, we will say it is a hard exercise. So using a fixed percentage of maximally achievable value of oxygen uptake or heart rate, that is 50% of the maximum heart rate, 40% of the maximum heart rate, that involves a considerable amount of inter-individual heterogeneity in other markers of internal load. Example, metabolic response objectified by the, for instance, peripheral blood lactate. What is the lactic acid is there? So hence traditional exercise prescriptions lead to largely varying individual doses as revealed by the markers of an internal load. So this may lead to heterogeneity. So in this with oxygen, what's the metabolic reactions are there that are based on individual metabolic, that is the respiratory related responses. It could be used to determine individual exercise intensity. While there is a what's called the strong theoretical basis for the application of a threshold based exercise prescription for endurance exercise, endurance training, the challenges and pitfalls determining such individual threshold may explain why many researchers continue to favor exercise intensity prescriptions based upon the relative percentage of maximum values. So with this, what's what I conclude that a clear definition of the dose in exercise research and presenting evidence in how inter-individual variability in the dose might contribute to the individual heterogeneity in physiological function of the outcomes. So thus the dose of an acute bout of physical exercises and or physical training should be operationalized by specific markers of internal load. So modifying the exercise prescription by carefully adjusting the external load means intensity, duration, frequency, whatsoever. So a comparable dose can be achieved across the individuals. So finally, understanding how a comparable dose affects the physiological outcomes. Here I will just talk about the cardiovascular, because it is a very important system and the organ is very important. Is important step toward what's what identifying what dose is optimal for that particular person to achieve the greatest benefits with regard to cardiovascular outcomes in an individual. So with this, I just compile my lecture, and thanks for listening to me. Now it is open for your questions. Hello, everybody is there? Any question, any term which you have seen, I try my best to give the simple language, try to give the simple meanings, and still I think some technical words are there which cannot be avoided by me. So if anybody have any question and query, it is open for clarification from my side. Hanji, hello.
Sir, one question.
One come, many questions you can put it.
Okay, Doctor. Now the house is open for discussion. If anybody has any question, you're most welcome. Okay, sir, interval training है जो कैमरा और फोटोग्राफ with the
Hello, just a minute. Hanji. Many pictures come into my screen. I don't know how to stop it. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Shish, for your guidance.
हाँ जी सर एक इंटरवल ट्रेनिंग होती है सर
हाँ जी कमलजीत जी
हाँ जी सर वो मच बैटर है ਜਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਰੂਟੀਨ ਦੀ ਐਕਸਰਸਾਈਜ਼ ਹੈ
ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਇਦਾਂ ਕਰਮਜੀਤ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਪਰਪਸ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਾਰਟਿਸਪੈਂਟਸ ਕਿਸ ਪਰਪਸ ਲਈ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ
ਸਰ ਫੋਰ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ
ਉਸ ਪਰਸਨ ਇੱਕ ਆਮ ਬੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਇੱਕ ਜੈਂਟਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਬੜਾ ਮੈਟਰ ਕਰਦਾ
ਸਰ ਸਾਈਕਲਿੰਗ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਸਾਈਕਲਿੰਗ ਸਰ
ਅੱਛਾ ਸਾਈਕਲਿਸਟ ਨੇ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਅੱਛਾ ਸਾਈਕਲਿਸਟ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸਾਈਕਲਿਸਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਲੈਵਲ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਨੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਾਲਜ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਦੇ ਆ
ਸਰ ਉਹ ਕਾਲਜ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਨੇ
ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਕਾਲਜ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਕਾਲਜ ਲੈਵਲ ਦੇ ਪਲੇਅਰ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਪ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਰਫਾਰਮੈਂਸ ਕਿ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਤੱਕ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਸਟੇਟ ਤੱਕ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਾਂ ਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਤੱਕ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਵੈਂਟਸ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਹੈ ਪਰਫਾਰਮੈਂਸ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਉਹ ਬੜਾ ਮੈਟਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਜੈਸਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕ੍ਰੋਸ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੰਟਰਵਲ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਜਾਂ ਦੂਜੀ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਤੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਿ